Bodies was released in 2022, directed by Helena Rain, and it stars the likes of Amanda Stenberg, Maria Bakalova, Lee Pace, and Pete Davidson, among others. And it's next up in my escape room mechanics series that doesn't automatically shout escape room, but there is a reason that it's there. 6 20-something friends wind up partying in a large family mansion, dancing, drinking, doing drugs before they decide to play a little game of bodies. The idea here is that one of them is chosen at random to play a killer who pretends to get away with killing everybody in the group before they ultimately get caught. Not unlike the game Werewolf. Only when people really do end up dying one by one, it doesn't really feel fun anymore, and suspicions start going wild. While escape room mechanics may not be the first thing that you think about in a movie like this, which is something more akin to, And Then There Were None, it still has a lot of the proper moving parts or tropes usually found in escape room films, such as the number of people locked in a certain area, in this case, an isolated mansion during a massive storm that cut off power and cell reception. There's also a mystery to solve, a deadly game to play, and of course, bodies piling up. Still, I think that there's really only 2 primary ways that you can interpret this movie. First, you can easily just look at this film on the surface and enjoy an entertaining, yet somewhat typical horror film where people are just trying to survive a night while wondering which one might be a killer. The problem with that interpretation is that the ending might not satisfy you. It might even make you roll your eyes a little bit. The other way to interpret Bodies is to first go into the film with an expectation that it will have a dark, oftentimes smart sense of humor, as if the entire thing's a satire on Gen Z. I'd love to expand on that further, but I don't want to give absolutely everything away. This satire on Gen Z, if that's really what it is, makes me immediately think about The Cabin in the Woods, and how that was a smart comedy satire on several tropes found within tons of horror films, or The Last Action Hero, which does the exact same thing for the action movie genre, especially during Schwarzenegger's reign. I've always wanted them to make more films that feel as brilliant as those 2 movies, something that has a plot of its own that works for what it is, but also offers quite a few tongue-in-cheek jabs at the generalizations of generations. It's such a unique concept that isn't visited as often as I feel like it should be, but people tend to have a lack of intelligence when it comes to comedy under the surface. So in simpler words, a lot of people just don't get it, making the entire idea more of a risky niche that you never know if it'll be successful or not. Even when you start looking primarily at the mystery at the heart of the film, the way that it's approached, the direction that it ultimately takes, it's all pretty solid. Your suspicions as an audience member as to who the killer is will naturally shift from person to person. Is it the obvious person? Is it the violent person who seems crazy a lot of the times? Is it the quiet person? Is it the person that you trust the most? Is it the person that you love? Is it the person that doesn't seem like they'll hurt a fly? Who the heck is it? And honestly, I'm pretty sure that the answer is going to remain a surprise for a majority of people that don't already know. The cinematography was smart, especially if you read up on how it was done, since a lot of this film does take place in the dark, where people are holding up flashlights on their phones or otherwise. The cinematographer actually had to direct the actors to use those lights very specifically, to the point that if they didn't do it precisely right, exactly right, the entire thing would have to be redone because the shot wouldn't just look wrong, but you wouldn't even be able to see anything but silhouettes. These are things that people don't always think about with film, but they're so important in the long run as to how people ultimately perceive movies. That being said, I wouldn't necessarily call this a masterpiece or otherwise perfect, as I think that some aspects of its marketing were flawed. Obviously, it's a good movie that is often praised by critics, but not a lot of people know that it exists either. In my experience, neither through trailers, commercials, or even word of mouth did I even know the film existed. And when I started this series and I saw the film was coming up, along with a few others, I just wasn't interested in it. It looked tacky, it sounded tacky, and like I mentioned before, it gave off a vibe that just did not interest me. This instead was more of a never judge a book by its cover moment, or in the world of cinema, it's another hidden gem. I will be rating this a letter grade of B+, which seems to be the letter grade of escape room mechanics. I've rated some higher, I've rated some lower, but more often than not, a lot of these films end up getting rated B+, because that's a score to me that screams entertaining, fun, rewatchable, but nothing that really feels perfect or super deep or anything that needs to be found in the awards circuit. Nothing like that. It's a fun, thrilling mystery at the end of the day, and it doesn't need to be anything more. But guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this film. Have you seen Bodies, Bodies, Bodies? If you have, leave it in the comment section down below your thoughts on it. Also, as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review for the Escape Room Mechanics series. And until then,
bodies, bodies, bodies in the night they roam, playing games of danger in their haunted home, lost in the maze of youth where fears collide, in this thrilling dance where shadows confide.